History remembers kings. Legends remember conquerors. But very few men become something bigger than both. Before he was feared across Europe. Before kingdoms trembled at the sound of his name. Ragnar Lothbrok was just a farmer with an impossible dream. A man who refused to accept the limits of his world. He crossed oceans no Viking dared to cross, challenged rulers who seemed untouchable, and built a legacy so powerful that centuries later people still debate whether he was a real man or a myth. But every legend has a price, and the higher Ragnar climbed, the harder he would eventually fall. This is the story of ambition, power, betrayal, and destiny. This is the rise and fall of Ragnar Lothbrok, the farmer who dreamed beyond the horizon. Ragnar Lothbrok did not begin as a king, a legend, or a feared warrior. He began as a simple farmer living in a world where survival was more important than ambition. While others accepted the limits of their lives, Ragnar constantly looked toward the horizon. He believed there was something greater waiting beyond the seas. This curiosity separated him from everyone around him. Most Vikings preferred raiding east because it was familiar and safe. But Ragnar became obsessed with stories of rich lands in the west. His vision was considered foolish. Many people mocked him, and powerful leaders refused to support his ideas. Yet Ragnar never stopped believing. He secretly worked with the shipbuilder Floki to create a new kind of vessel capable of sailing farther than anyone imagined. That decision changed everything. What started as a dream in the mind of a farmer would eventually transform the Viking world forever. Ragnar's journey proves that history is often changed by those who dare to challenge what everyone else considers impossible. The first voyage that changed. Viking history. Ragnar's rise truly began when he convinced a small group of warriors to follow him across the unknown sea. It was a dangerous gamble. No one knew what existed in the west, and many believed they would never return. Yet Ragnar's determination inspired others to trust him. The voyage led them to England, where they discovered wealthy monasteries filled with treasures unlike anything they had seen before. The raid on Lindisfarne became one of the most important moments in Viking history. Ragnar and his men returned home with gold, silver, and stories of opportunity. Suddenly, the man who had once been ignored became impossible to overlook. His success challenged the authority of Earl Haraldsson and created tension between the old leadership and the new generation. Ragnar had proven that his vision was correct. More importantly, he had shown that courage and innovation could bring unimaginable rewards. This victory marked the beginning of Ragnar's transformation from an ambitious farmer into a rising force destined to reshape the Viking world. The fall of Earl Haraldsson and the birth of a leader's success brought Ragnar fame, but it also created enemies. Earl Haraldsson viewed Ragnar as a threat to his power and influence. Their rivalry grew stronger with each passing raid. Ragnar represented change, while Haraldsson represented tradition. Eventually, the conflict could no longer be avoided. The tension erupted into a brutal confrontation that would decide the future of Kattegat. When Ragnar challenged Haraldsson, he risked everything. Defeat would mean death. Victory would place enormous responsibility on his shoulders. The duel was fierce, but Ragnar emerged victorious. With Haraldsson gone, Ragnar became the new leader. For the first time, he had the authority to shape the future according to his vision. This moment marked a major turning point in his rise. Ragnar was no longer just a warrior chasing adventure. He was now responsible for protecting his people and guiding them into a new era. The dreamer had become a ruler, and his ambitions were growing larger than ever before. Ragnar becomes King of Kings. As Ragnar's reputation spread, so did his influence. His victories in England and Scandinavia earned him respect from warriors, rulers, and even enemies. Over time, he defeated powerful rivals and expanded his authority. Eventually, he achieved what once seemed impossible, becoming King of Kattegat and one of the most influential figures in the Viking world. Yet power changed Ragnar. He remained intelligent and ambitious, but the burden of leadership began to weigh heavily on him. He was constantly forced to make difficult choices. Every victory created new challenges. Every alliance came with hidden dangers. While his fame reached incredible heights, Ragnar slowly became isolated from the people closest to him. He struggled with personal losses, political conflicts, and the pressure of maintaining control over an expanding kingdom. Despite these challenges, his legend continued to grow. To many, Ragnar appeared unstoppable. He had risen from a farmer to a king whose name inspired fear across Europe. But beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to form in the empire he had worked so hard to build. The mistakes that started Ragnar's downfall. No ruler remains at the top forever. For Ragnar, the beginning of the end came through a series of costly mistakes. His failed expedition to Paris damaged his reputation. Many of his followers questioned his leadership for the first time. At the same time, personal tragedies and betrayals left him emotionally broken. Ragnar also became increasingly disconnected from his family and allies. Relationships that once gave him strength started falling apart. His decisions became more unpredictable, and trust began to disappear. The man who had inspired countless warriors now seemed lost and uncertain. Years passed, and Ragnar vanished from public life. During his absence, others stepped into positions of power. When he finally returned, he discovered that the world had changed. The people who once followed him without question were no longer convinced of his greatness. Ragnar had spent years building a legend, but now he faced the painful reality that legends can fade. His downfall was not caused by one enemy. It was the result of accumulated failures, losses, and the burden of his own choices. Ragnar's final journey. Knowing his time was running out, Ragnar made one final decision. Instead of hiding from his failures, he chose to confront them directly. He returned to England with a small force, fully aware that the mission could end in disaster. Deep down, Ragnar understood something that others did not. His death could become more powerful than his life. Captured by King Aelle, Ragnar faced a brutal fate. Yet even in defeat, he remained fearless. He refused to beg for mercy. He refused to show weakness. Instead, he delivered one of the most memorable speeches in television history. Ragnar knew his death would inspire his sons to seek revenge and unite the Viking world. As he was thrown into the pit of snakes, Ragnar accepted his fate with dignity. The warrior who had changed history was gone, but his story was far from over. His final moments transformed him from a king into an immortal legend whose influence would continue long after his death. The legacy of Ragnar Lothbrok. Ragnar's fall did not mark the end of his story. In many ways, it was only the beginning. His death united his sons and triggered events that changed the course of history. Warriors across the Viking world remembered his courage, ambition, and determination. Even his enemies could not ignore the impact he had made. What makes Ragnar such a fascinating character is that he was never perfect. He achieved greatness through intelligence, vision, and bravery, but he also suffered because of pride, mistakes, and personal flaws. His story is not simply about victory or defeat. It is about the cost of ambition and the price of chasing greatness. From a humble farmer to a legendary king, Ragnar Lothbrok experienced both extraordinary success and devastating failure. That combination is what makes his journey unforgettable. His rise inspired generations, and his fall ensured that his name would never be forgotten. Ragnar may have died, but legends like him never truly disappear. Ragnar Lothbrok's story was never really about becoming king. It was about changing the world around him. From a simple farmer to one of the most feared and respected figures in Viking history, Ragnar proved that greatness often begins with a single, impossible idea. But his journey also reminds us that power comes with sacrifice, and every legend must eventually face its final chapter. Even after his death, Ragnar's influence continued through his sons, his enemies, and the generations who carried his name forward. Because kings may die, empires may fall, but legends live forever. And Ragnar Lothbrok became one of the greatest legends the world has ever known. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know which legendary character you'd like us to explain next.